What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 104 of the Finale Podcast. My name is Markos, and it's going to be a solo episode today, just me. We're going to be talking about the NFL, looking back to week 12, and then also looking ahead to week 13, although today is Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. So some games in week 13 have already started, but yeah, let's get into it. So, NFL episode, biggest takeaway from week 12 and Thanksgiving Day. For week 12, I'm going to look at the Commander side of things. The Commanders had a hot start to the year, but although I think they're still good, I think they're not as good as I thought they were. I don't know about everybody else's expectations, but for me, the last couple of losses to Pittsburgh and Dallas, I think kind of shows that, okay, we got to pump the brakes a little bit. This team is in wild card contention, but not ready yet to win the whole NFC East, as we've seen with the Eagles and what they've done recently. That's a team to beat once again. And the Commanders, they can definitely make a wild card spot, can definitely fight for that 6 or 7 seed, but I just don't think they're as good as I as good as I thought they were. Sorry, but yeah, I think it's still something to be optimistic about if you're a Commanders fan with everything that's gone on this year. I mean, they almost were able to come back in last week's game against Dallas. I mean, these are close losses they've experienced the last couple of weeks. I think they'll be able to bounce back eventually, but usually the more dominant teams are able to figure out ways to win in those situations. I think they'll be able to figure it out once again and kind of get back on track here soon. And then for Thanksgiving Day, I think the biggest takeaway for everybody has to be coming from that Bears game and their clock management down the stretch in that one. Um, for me, my takeaway in that is like I don't think they were trying to win that game, and that seems to be like something that has, I guess, encapsulated everything that's gone on with the Bears in the Eberflus era. They've had good teams, they've had good defenses, as you know, he is a defensive guy when he came over from um, Indianapolis. But yeah, just overall team effort and contribution, I think it hasn't been there. Consistency is not something that's been in their favor. Um, Caleb Williams, I think he's looked good the past couple of weeks, but with that clock management down the stretch when they were in, field goal range, I would say for Santos, I think they were saying like a 59 yarder. I mean, I think that's worth a shot for sure. Not using your timeout that you had available in that situation, I don't know what the thought process was behind that. I know he made a comment on it that I'm not recalling at this current point in time, but I think it's just inexcusable. And it's led to what we'll discuss now is his firing. So the Bears have fired Matt Eberflus. So they started the season 4-2 and kind of, you know, met in some ways the expectations that everybody had for them in the offseason with being one of the best teams, or rising teams, I would say, in the league. And they were 4-2, right? And then ever since that loss to Washington, it's just been downhill. At this point, when they fired Eberflus, they're 4-8 team, so that is a 6 game losing streak, and it's just again encapsulating everything that's gone wrong in the Eberflus era. Um, Defensively, I think they've been solid, just not good enough. You know, they have so many playmakers on defense, but offensively, I don't think they've always maximized it. In the last couple of weeks, they actually have. I think Caleb Williams has looked really good and's gotten himself back in the race for the offensive rookie of the year. But overall, team wise, they have those mistakes, they have those issues, and you can see it whether it's like communication errors, self-inflicted penalties with the false starts, defensive pass interferences, a lot of things that just hinders them as a team. And I think they just need to go, with the restart. I think I've liked what they've built this year, especially. I think they have still a promising future, but I think they need somebody else to lead the way for them. And I can see them for sure going in an offensive route with the offensive-minded head coach, as many teams do, and find somebody that they can build around with Caleb Williams as your guy. And yeah, I think Caleb Williams he's gonna get it figured out, and that's gonna be an attractive spot to go to in the offseason. But yeah, Eberflus, I mean, overall in his tenure there, uh, some highs but a lot of lows, and I think that just really is the takeaway from his tenure. Moving on, Vikings signing Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones, let go by the Giants last week, released. We've seen reports about him getting practice or scout team safety role, I think it was. And, that was kind of like, wow, right after he got benched and, was dropped to like the third or fourth string. Put out that letter kind of appreciating the Giants and their ownership and everything like that for, the chance they took on him and everything that he was able to do there. So it was kind of a weird way to have everything unfold, how quickly it did. But he had a lot of suitors, a lot of playoff ready teams were looking at him, and he chose Minnesota. And as a Vikings fan, look at that, and I'm like, okay, that's a sign of good things. We've seen what Kevin O'Connell has done with these quarterbacks over the last couple of years, especially without Kirk Cousins. You look at Josh Dobbs, the success he had with him initially. Nick Mullins, I think he's done decent things with him. Um, Sam Darnold, of course, is somebody that's like, turned it around completely. And then Daniel Jones, I think he looks at that and says, like, that's a situation where I want to go. You don't assume he's going to get much of a opportunity this year. I mean, it's only a 1 year deal, so you don't really know what you're looking at with that. But I think he is the Vikings' backup quarterback for the season. As soon as he gets elevated and understands the playbook and no longer is on the practice squad, I feel like he's a better option than Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins has just been a turnover-prone guy, puts up really good stats, but the turnovers put a damper on what those numbers are. And that's what the Vikings experienced last season with him, and they don't want to go into that situation this year. We've seen already situations where Sam Darnold has gotten hurt in games and has had to leave the game. So I think Daniel Jones gives you, a ready quarterback that has starter experience and can manage the game. Well, we haven't seen that well in New York over the last couple of years, but I think when you have the right resources around him, he can do well, as we did see in that year they made the playoffs and won that playoff game against Minnesota. So I think it's a good signing. It's worth it. Really good backup quarterback option for Minnesota. I don't think it gives them any question marks going past this season. I feel like JJ McCarthy has that QB1 spot on lock for Minnesota's future. But as for this season, I think it just gives Minnesota much needed depth. And Daniel Jones, really good situation for him to learn from Sam Darnold and be in that system alongside Kevin O'Connell, who is a fan of him. So yeah, I like the signing. And then the NFC North side of things, it's just all these teams already have 9 wins, and it's Black Friday. It's crazy. I mean, the Packers winning that game yesterday. Josh Jacobs has been amazing. Jaden Reed's been amazing. Tucker Kraft, that whole offense, Jordan Love's. I mean, it's crazy. And then defensively, they get stops, and they are able to create turnovers as well. So just a hard team to deal with, and really that home field advantage helps them out a lot. And then they can also win on the road as well. They're definitely capable of doing that. And yeah, just a really good team. I mean, it's going to be hard to beat those guys down the stretch. I think really it's going to come down to the divisional games for the NFC North, because I don't think any other team is stopping what they're doing. The Vikings, of course, play on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. I feel like that's a game the Vikings should win. The Cardinals lost last week. They were a team that was picking up steam now. I believe they're a 500 team, and they still, I think, are right there in contention for the NFC West. They are, but I don't think they have first place anymore. I think that goes to Seattle at this point. So that's going to be a toss-up for that division, but they are needing to win that game. They're playing meaningful football right now, so it's not going to be easy by any means. But the Vikings, they've been playing really good all season. Look at, what they've been able to do, the big time wins they've been able to get against Houston, San Francisco at the time, Green Bay. I think it was even big to win last week in Chicago after everything that unfolded late in that game. The game against Jacksonville, where they didn't look good, and Sam Darnold especially didn't look good. Indianapolis, just those games where you just have to grind it out. Those are the type of wins that are, a signifier of a good team, and that's kind of what I mentioned earlier with the Commanders, where some good teams will be able to win those games that they didn't win. And as for the Vikings, I think they're able to do that this year, and they're definitely surpassing a lot of people's expectations. As I mentioned with the Bears and their preseason expectations earlier, the Vikings were slated to be the worst team in the NFC North, and now they're number two a game and want to say, well, technically, the Lions already played, but they're a game essentially behind the Lions, and that's a very impressive feat at this point in the season, considering what the Vikings lost in the offseason. But I think a lot of that goes to what they gained with guys like Blake Cashman, guys like Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Sam Darnold, Aaron Jones. Those guys are making plays, and now we're seeing Jordan Addison come to the party finally. And what he can do is a lot. He can just make a lot of plays happen. And with Justin Jefferson getting that type of coverage that he does get with all those guys prohibiting him, it makes it easier for Jordan Addison. Makes it easier for T.J. Hawkinson and Josh Oliver and even Aaron Jones to make these plays happen. And of course, it makes it a lot easier for the quarterback. So as long as Sam Darnold continues to play efficient football as he has the last couple of weeks specifically, I think the Vikings are in great position to contend in this NFC North. And really, it'd be huge if they were able to win the division and get home field advantage because that makes them a much different team to play. But it does for all these teams. And that goes now to the next team, the Lions, who are so good at home, even though their only loss of the season is at home. They're a really good home team. They're really hard to beat. Unfortunately, suffered another season-ending injury to I think it was Rodriguez on their defense. So that's Rodriguez and Hutchinson now out for the season. That's tough, but I mean those guys that have come in have been really good. Zadarius Smith has been really impressive so far in his few games that he's been there. Offensively, they're just no words. I mean, just everybody there is just insane. The playbook is crazy open, like whatever they can do. Even ran a play where Penei Sewell was supposed to be a passer, and they've used him multiple times in the offense this year. So it's just it's a luxury to have all those weapons. It's a luxury to have those coordinators on defense and offense with Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. I'm going to be shocked if they retain those guys after this offseason once again, because those guys are legit in what they do, and they can do it with anybody in the offense. Any personnel, it really doesn't matter. They're able to execute the offense, and you've got Jared Goff in MVP talks right now, which I think is valid. I mean, with the way he's playing, he could lead a team that could go 16-1. Is that going to be enough for him to win the MVP? I don't know. I mean, he's not a guy with the status of a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, but he's playing amazing right now, very efficient football. Hasn't really turned the ball over a whole lot outside of, that one game against Houston. I mean, he hasn't really had too many turnover heavy games. So I think he's playing really good football, and yeah, just a tough team to beat. That's something we came to expect coming into the season, something we saw last year, of course, with their rise. And we know what they did in the playoffs last year, going 2-0 at home. And, it's going to be a tough race in the NFC North, but I wouldn't be surprised if these teams see each other in the playoffs as well, regardless of who has the home field advantage, because, what they're able to do against every other team outside of the NFC North, they can win these games. And it's just been impressive. It's been good to watch, even as a Vikings fan. I was saying like a couple of weeks ago, or after the loss to Los Angeles, like, oh, I don't think this team's going to win the division because Detroit is just way too good. But the Vikings they're keeping up with them, and that's impressive to see. And the Packers, of course, aren't going down without a fight. And they made a playoff run last year that could have even got them to the NFC Championship game against Detroit. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing how everything unfolds. Hopefully, the Vikings can figure it out. But as for upset pick of the week time, I'm going to go with the Panthers. 5.5 point underdogs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, big time win last week against the New York Giants. But I think the Panthers, with how they played in the last couple of weeks, Bryce Young's been playing well, and it took a field goal to not win against the Chiefs for the Chiefs to pull that one out. I mean, it's been good how they've been able to play the last couple of weeks. It's been really good to see Bryce Young's progression, and I can see them easily, finding a way to not only cover here but win this game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with how they're playing right now. So it'll be a good game. I think the Panthers are ready to compete in this type of game, and as they showed last week, I think they'll be in it throughout. And yeah, that's my upset pick. As for NBA takeaways, before we finish things off here, I know it's been a short pod, and I will say I didn't mention it, but I am in Minnesota right now in my childhood bedroom. Got the hat on. I don't know what temperature is, but I think it's below 20 right now. It's very cold, and this is much different than what I'm used to over the last couple of months in Arizona. So definitely got a little bit soft down there, but yeah, just came out from walking my dog, and I'm feeling the after effects of this cold weather. But NBA takeaways, real quick. Let's just talk about the Wolves today. The theme has been the Wolves have been an inconsistent team, chemistry issues, defensive issues, a lot of mistakes, and that's continued with their most recent loss, finding a way to lose against the Sacramento Kings. That shouldn't have happened. Losing to the Houston Rockets, that shouldn't have happened. It's just been unfortunate to see the Timberwolves take this step back in everything that they've been able to build over the last couple of seasons. And yeah, it just goes back to the Karl Anthony Towns trade, and I think this is a result of all of that. And it's going to take some time to rekindle everything that's gone on and the chemistry issues. And Anthony Edwards, he was honest about everything post game after Sacramento, and hopefully the team can respond, and they'll have that first opportunity to do so here tonight as I record this episode against the Los Angeles Clippers. But the Timberwolves are going to have to figure some things out defensively, chemistry-wise, expectations. Anthony Edwards, the thing he said, I think the main takeaway was, we're front runners and we're acting like front runners, and that's basically it's not okay. And defense is our identity. We don't know what our identity is besides it just being a soft team. And yeah, like I said, man, just he was honest, and I think it was much needed. The team has lost their way, and I think it comes down to a lot of things. I'm talking to my friend Ife, who's been on the pod, talks about the rotation and how they need to extend that and let these younger guys play, especially during the regular season, which, it definitely has a point in that. I want to see more Rob Dillingham. Even when Mike Conley's healthy, Rob Dillingham has shown that he deserves to play. It'd be cool to see some of the other young guys like Josh Minot or, TJ Shannon feature a little bit. But yeah, hopefully the Timberwolves kind of figure out some things over the next couple of weeks and understand that like, yeah, this is unacceptable. We're a below average team right now, and our season is set up for us to be a play-in team, and that's a step back, major steps back from being what they were last year as a conference finalist. So yeah, we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, quick episode today. This was everything for the Finale podcast. I was your host. I am your host, Markos Sagai, and appreciate you guys staying with me. Hope you guys have enjoyed this Thanksgiving weekend, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.